Hey, Colleen.
Hey Dean, how are you?
Good, thank you. So, Colleen, what's a fractional CMO?
That's a good question. A fractional CMO is a part-time or temporary marketing leader who oversees the marketing efforts and leads a business through strategy. And I'm one of those. I'm a
Yeah.
fractional CMO,
Okay.
and my business is Sabatino Marketing.
Hmm.
I started in marketing by getting students to enroll in independent high schools and colleges. And in higher ed and in ed, you're really selling a mission where multiple people are deciding on the decision or the purchase. And today, I mainly work with organizations who are on a mission, especially in health, wellness, and education.
Well, then let's talk about a hypothetical, okay?
Sure.
The standard hypothetical for this podcast, which is today's day one of a brand new client engagement. You don't know the client, they don't know you, you just started. And what do you try to accomplish, or what do you normally see, or what problems do you go looking for, or what problems usually smack you in the head in the first 90 days of a brand new client engagement? What are the first 90 days like?
Sure. Well, a lot happens in the first 90 days, as I'm sure a lot of your other guests have talked about.
Hmm.
But it really starts with a period of listening and discovery. You're not really going to be able to get anything done if you don't do that first and take the time to listen to the CEO, to the team members in place, to any existing marketing folks that are on the team to understand what the issues, gaps, goals, and priorities are. Because sometimes the CEO that hires you may express one thing in the initial conversation, but through the
Right.
period of discovery, you learn that maybe there's more to it, or maybe there are some other priorities that are worth addressing first. So once you sort of do that period, then I think it's really about either realigning the existing strategy or setting a strategy if there's not one in place to meet those goals and priorities. And within that first 90 days, depending on the size of the company and the goals that they have set forth, you are going to be starting on at least testing some of that execution of strategy, hopefully, right? To create some proof of concept. But
Right.
the main goal in those first 90 days is to really get everyone to align on what the goals and what the efforts are that we want to see happen with the CMO.
Makes sense. So, Amanda, hi.
Hi.
Amanda, tell folks a little bit about you and what are the first 90 days normally involve when you start a new engagement?
Right. Well, I'm Amanda Fischer, and I'm a fractional CMO. I started in sales, and then I moved to helping companies onboard salespeople and develop processes around sales and marketing. And now I help clients put marketing and sales in the same headspace. So the same room, the same Zoom calls with aligned goals and coordinated work, mostly for companies with a very strong professional services focus.
Okay. What do the
And
first 90 days look
yeah, the first 90 days, it is very much discovery. It's actually the first 90 days are not all the same. The first 30 to 45 days are the same.
like?
So it starts with I always audit their current processes, what's been working, what hasn't been working. And I find that out through getting access to all client facing materials, but also sitting in on a marketing meeting. You can tell a lot from what's the dynamics there and, people's positions and what their responsibilities are. And then I often do stakeholder interviews one-on-one. So that would definitely include key team members one-on-one because they might say things to you that they wouldn't say in a team atmosphere that
Yeah.
you learn, right? And then often investors or board members, and sometimes even key clients. So that's really the standard. And then from there, from those first 30 to 45 days, then taking that information and forming a plan for the next 3 months after that.
Mhm.
Okay. So then let's like shift roles a tiny bit. Let's say that you're the CEO,
Mhm.
the client side CEO, right? What are you going to see or notice or do or be able to stop doing now that you've brought on a fractional CMO in the first like 90 days or so?
Yeah. So a lot of times when you bring in a fractional CMO, it's because there's a discrepancy, there's a missing leadership. So
Mhm.
there's just a gap in that leadership. So the person that has all of these many responsibilities and probably leadership responsibilities across a lot of different departments or different offices is in charge of leading also a small marketing team in this office or this office and this office. So then you hire that fractional CMO. They take over a lot of those responsibilities of leading a smaller one of those teams. So they can focus the CEO can focus their responsibilities on the higher level stuff, which they like to do and probably what they're best at.
Right.
So it's a long way around to get to the an answer, but yeah.
Okay, so then, Colleen, from like in your experience, what is the actually? Let me invert that question because I like inverting questions. So you've worked on enough clients engagements at this point. How do companies typically waste the money that they spend on their fractional CMO? What do they do that they should not be doing anymore, or what do they not do that they should have done to get sort of maximum value out of that fractional CMO engagement?
Yeah. So to really get the most out of a fractional CMO, I think that CEOs have to be ready to be transparent and really provide clear communication around what their business goals are and what their challenges are. And some of that might require actually sitting down and thinking about what that is, especially if you're a CEO who's moving very quickly or you're in a startup environment and things are moving quickly. You do need to take the time to identify what your main priorities, goals, audiences are, and be willing to kind of have those conversations with the CMO. I also think you're wasting your time with a CMO if you are not willing to kind of bring them in on some of the meetings that may seem unrelated to marketing, right? They
Right.
do need to know about how the business is operating. They do need to know about the sales function or what the latest, product is that's coming out, or how you kind of plan to grow the business, because it's going to be relevant to how they target your marketing strategy. So I think keeping them in the dark, keeping them off to the side, treating them like a vendor, those things are all going to result in a poor kind of outcome with a CMO. Instead, if you can make them part of the team and really use their strategic brain to be a leader in the organization for the period of time they're with you, that's how you're really going to get the most out of it.
All right. So you're the CEO now, okay? On the client side, you're looking at the marketing team, marketing department, staffers, right? And you're looking at this fractional CMO that you've brought on, and it's day one, right? Uh, Looking at that team, how do you think that team is going to be better, right, or different at least, but better, like at the end of, let's say, 12 months than they are today when that fractional CMO first gets there, on the launch pad?
Yeah. I mean, the hope is that when a fractional CMO comes in, they can help a marketing team get aligned on the strategy and map the tasks and things that they're doing towards that. Because
Mhm.
sometimes what you'll find is that there may be marketing function, but it might not be strategic, or it might just be, pushing out content or kind of churning things. And maybe there's not a lot of connection between the marketing folks and the higher level leadership of the organization or the growth strategy of the organization. So the CMO can bring those two worlds together and really create a function where the marketing team can see what their role is in the overall company and understand what goals they're working towards. I also think that a CMO can come in and really learn the team and help them with skill development, help them with networking, help them with even their own personal career so that they feel an investment in the work that they're doing, and that they not only producing for the business but for their own personal development. And I think that can do a
Right.
lot for a team.
Amanda, in your experience, do marketing teams change over the course of a fractional CMO's engagement? And if so, like, what have you seen?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I see usually immediately is the team feels like they are being more listened to. Uh,
Hmm.
they have somebody that's an advocate for them. I mean, in a best case scenario, sometimes it doesn't work out like that. Sometimes they feel like it's a little bit of a threat, which that can be a challenge. But what they usually get more feedback directly on their work that they weren't getting. They get
Right.
more just direction in general. So and that really helps to motivate them moving forward and produces better work almost immediately, and then following through the year. So
So, okay, so then let's talk about one person on that team.
Mhm.
Okay. It is the newest hire, the most junior person, the person that just graduated from college. Like, this is their first ever job, full time job, other than that time when they were at the wing place. So they're like brand new marketer, right? Everyone's favorite kind of employee, the junior marketer, right? Okay, so junior marketer like Googles and finds out what a fractional CMO is. Never heard the term, and so like, oh, this person's starting on Monday. If I'm the junior marketer, like, is there anything that I should be doing to sort of, and I don't mean this in the mercenary sense, but to, take full advantage
Mhm.
of the fact that there's going to be someone at the C level in marketing for the next 12 months? Amanda.
Yes, absolutely. What they First of all, I think Googling is always a great place to start to see, because then you find out about the person's background, what they, maybe places they've worked. You can ask them questions, build rapport, but usually you'll find something not just about, trying to ingratiate yourself to the new
Mm-hmm.
boss or whatever. It's more like you'll probably find something interesting that you want to know more about or that you think you can learn from them, and it's a way to open a conversation. And I mean, I would recommend researching anybody like on a podcast. If you're talking to new people, you find out a little bit about them so that you can find common ground, and then also just learn from them as much as possible.
All right. Makes sense. And Colleen, what do you think? What advice would you give? Tell you what, there's been some sort of like time space split, and for some reason there are now two Colleens. Okay, there's like you today, and there's also you today, but you're 24
Okay.
and you just started in marketing. What would you tell 24-year-old Colleen? You got a minute. Okay, you're in the same space for 1 minute. Like, do this, don't do that. What would it be?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's to not be afraid to take risks and
Right.
to share your ideas. So I think a lot of times newer marketing folks are a little hesitant to share ideas, or maybe they feel like, they need to wait and learn, and they do need to learn, but they also should be sharing their ideas, I think, with leadership. And they may be closer to some of the new emerging technologies or excited about some new
Yeah.
strategies, new audiences. And so I'd encourage the newer marketing folks to share with the CMO what their ideas are, to bounce those off of them, to learn from their experience, to see what could work well or wouldn't work well, and to definitely be open to finding mentors and colleagues in the space. It's something that I did when I was early in my career, and it made a big difference for me. And I think if folks can see the fractional CMO in that light and not as scary new boss or something like that, then it'll be better for them because they'll be able to learn a lot quicker.
I had an email go out to my list this week, like a bunch of things, sort of like, quick lessons. I think one was people will remember stupid statements you make, but no one remembers dumb questions. So ask as many as you want.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense. Okay. So, Colleen, we're kind of like winding down a little bit
Yeah.
for this episode, but I got a couple of things I want to cover. First, I'll give you an opportunity so that you can ask Amanda a question, and then vice versa. But in between that, there are easier ways to make a living than being a fractional CMO. I mean, there's a lot more to being a fractional CMO than being a CMO.
Mhm.
If only because there's like the CMO job, and then an entire like business put
Mhm.
onto that where you're making business decisions and finding clients. It's like, why do this job? Like,
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah, I like the fractional CMO work because I really enjoy the foundational work of building and professionalizing marketing programs.
Sure.
I like having the opportunity to work with a variety of industries and settings, and to kind of have a say in what type of work I'm involved in. It's rewarding to help businesses reach their goal and fulfill their mission. And since my career had started out, in marketing and communications and education, I have a sweet spot for mission-based organizations. And so this allows me to sort of help those companies that I'm really passionate about, and work with them to achieve their goals by using the talents that I have.
All right. And then uh, everyone in the podcast is just randomly paired, right? We don't
Yeah.
pick people to be on the episode together. So you've just ended up randomly in a podcast with another fractional CMO. Like, what kind of questions? If you want, I can tell you sort of like types and themes of questions other people have asked, since we only started asking doing this part in season 4.
Yeah,
But
I have a question.
okay.
So, Amanda, I feel like a lot of the work we do requires us to educate,
Mhm.
whether that's educating CEOs about best practices
Mhm.
or managing expectations of teams of what marketing can actually do for a business, or just building trust, like educating how much time it might take. What are some things that you do, or what's an approach you take to help educate founders or CEOs or teams when you're coming in? How do you like to do that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I like to provide previous examples from previous clients. I think that works best
Yeah.
because then it's a more concrete what you're trying to convey. It's from your direct experience to try to position yourself as, hey, I've been here before. So, and I've seen this, and this is what I did in this scenario. And this was the outcome. So, I think that helps a lot. And doing that at the beginning helps a lot. I'm not sure if that completely answered your question, but
Yeah, no, I think showing your expertise makes a lot of sense.
All right. And then okay, so Amanda, and again, like I'm not trying to be rude. I just genuinely curious on why people do this job. I'm not a fractional CMO, so like why do this for a living? And what's your question for Colleen?
sure. So why do I do this for a living? I started out in sales. And so I started out doing this for a different reason. And in sales, I was doing a lot of community building. I got into marketing. Then I had positions as head of marketing and sales. I started doing this because I really wanted to help enable businesses to have smaller businesses to have all the resources that larger businesses had in marketing. I was very passionate about that, but that's how I started out. Things shifted and I, went to larger companies and it's, easier to make money with larger companies. But the real thing is the flexibility and being able to take on the clients that saying no to clients that are not going to be a good fit for you and taking on the ones that you feel passionately about, you really feel like you can help. That's why I'm still in this business.
All right. I asked the question because I think I have the greatest job in the world, and I can't imagine why anyone does any other job. I know
Mhm.
most people can't do my job, but still, I do have a great job. But all the fractional CMOs really seem to like what they're doing. Either they're like, born optimists or just don't understand how frustrating, right, a lot of their days are going to be. But it's fair. And what you have a question to
Yeah.
ask?
And there are frustrating days. So, Colleen, my question to you is, what's one of the biggest challenges you've come up against with working with a client and how did you overcome it?
Yeah. So it kind of ties back to the question I asked you about educating, because I think one of the biggest challenges that I find is when you start working with a client who maybe hasn't had any marketing experience or hasn't worked with a marketing firm before and doesn't understand the amount of time it can take to really build and execute on a strategy. So I think part of it is what you said about showing your expertise and kind of building that trust. But I think another part of it is just like over communication. So really being tightly knit with that CEO and communicating very regularly about what the benchmarks are that we can expect and when we can expect to see things start to shift or how the strategy might work. And so in cases where I've had those scenarios, and they happen a lot, where you have a business who wants to reach a certain goal by a certain date, and you have to really talk through why that may or may not make sense. I think you just have to really, really be clear about your communication from the very beginning about what you can and cannot do as a CMO, and then all the way through. So it's not, a quick fix for sure, but it is something that I think all of us probably do as fractional CMOs.
Okay, so Colleen, who should be contacting you these days, and how do you want them to do it?
Yeah. So my business is Sabatino Marketing. My website is sabatinomarketing.com, or you can also find me on LinkedIn. I really like working with startup and growth stage companies who have a mission, or higher education institutions who are looking to grow their marketing strategy. Those are really my sweet spots.
Okay, and how do you want people to do that? Go to the website
Yeah,
or
they can go to sabatinomarketing.com, or they can find me on LinkedIn.
okay? And Amanda, who should be contacting you these days, and how should they do it?
Yes. If you're a service company and either sales or marketing are underperforming in your business, we should talk definitely. I have a consultancy, which is called Grading Marketing. That's my fractional CMO, but I also have a full service digital marketing agency that's called Nickel Bronx. And the best way though to contact me would be on LinkedIn, because then you can read up on me, do a little research before you see if you want to talk to me.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you both. This has been a lot of fun for me today. Thanks for being here. And I'll see you. If you're watching this, you're probably watching a clip. There are probably lots of other clips with Amanda and Colleen in it on this episode. So look around. There's a ton, I promise you. And otherwise, we'll see you in the next episode. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you, Dean. Thanks, Amanda.